In a career that spans over 6 decades and more than 30,000 artworks, this painting stands as one of William Turner's most famous and perhaps most ambiguous paintings that was ever made. A ghostly pale battleship gliding towards us is towed by a steam-powered tugboat to its final resting place. The ship was called the Temeraire, a legendary vessel that played a heroic role in the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805 for gaining control over the Mediterranean. Turner painted a wide variety of ships along the coast of Britain, France and Italy, and his deep knowledge of these vessels shines through in this particular work. The Temeraire, painted in pale, almost ethereal tones, seems to glow against the deepening twilight sky. Its masts and rigging are silhouetted against the sunlit horizon, suggesting a fading glory. A once mighty warship is now relegated to obsolescence. In contrast, the tugboat is small but powerful, blanches out black smoke as it works tirelessly, a symbol of industrialization and technological advancement. Turner's masterful brushwork brings this scene to life, capturing the motion of the swirling water as the tugboat strains against the weight of the towering ship. This juxtaposition illustrates the tension between the past and the present, the old and the new. On the opposite side of the painting, we are greeted by a spectacular scene, a soft sun that is glowing in a delicate pink hue. If Turner was famous for just one thing, it was his sunsets. And looking at the sun here, it is sinking below the horizon, symbolizing the end of an era. The sky around it is illuminated with brilliant yellows, creating a stunning contrast that is dramatic, radiant, and captivating. Turner loved the vibrant yellow color and was often criticized by his contemporaries for overusing it. But there was something more in this yellow, an attempt to show the somewhat all-encompassing light. With the interplay of pinks, reds and purples in the sky, the sun's light gains more significance and it dances across the water below. We know it's water because of course there are ships here, but if we zoom in on that section, it is somewhat challenging to identify it as such. The colors defy expectations. There are no blues, barely any whites, and hardly a hint of grey. Instead, Turner's offers us something unconventional, yet no less beautiful. Behind the Temeraire, we can see other vessels stretching in the distance, receding further and further into the horizon. It adds layers of depth. It is hard to notice them at first, but a closer look shows how beautifully Turner has woven them into the scene, with the moon softly hanging on the opposite side. Then in the center we see that the other boat moves along, navigating the busy waters of the Thames. This energy is seen well, especially in the interaction between the tugboat and the ship behind it. It seems as if the tug is almost nudging a larger vessel aside, forcing other ships to steer clear, highlighting that the mechanical engines are about to lead the known world. Strangely enough, the reflection of the steam tugboat is clearer and somewhat more expressive than that of the ship it is carrying. Another little hint from an author on what is about to come in the future. A little further, we see a more traditional depiction of water where Turner shows the interplay of colors, brightness and light, elements that had by this point cemented his reputation as a painter of light. His understanding of color was influenced by Johann Goethe's color theory, which emphasized that the subjective experience of color was more important than its physical properties. Goethe believed that colors weren't just visual phenomena but deeply tied to human emotion and perception. For example, blue evoked calm, while yellow radiated cheerfulness. Embracing this concept, Turner infused his work with emotional depth through his use of color and depiction of light. Embracing this concept, Turner infused his work with emotional depth through his use of color and the depiction of light. Light that leads us towards a more encouraging, almost spiritual experience. As a child prodigy, Turner began his career painting marine scenes before transitioning into landscapes. And at 27, he had already become a full member of Royal Academy in London. His artistic journey advanced far, and despite his evolution, he never lost his deep connection to marine paintings, which remained a defining element throughout his life. However, when creating this image, Turner was already an old man. He named it the Fighting Temeraire, a vessel with rich history, yet after Trafalgar the Temeraire never saw action again. days as a hero ship ended with that victory. But you don't just sink a ship like this and move on. The Temeraire was a significant, expensive piece of naval equipment. So like most ships that fought at Trafalgar, the Navy sold the Temeraire for scrap. It is said that building this ship required 5,000 oak trees. You wouldn't throw those away so easily, and Turner wants us to feel a certain way about it, as if to say, here is a glorious past, and how do we move forward from this past? He uses his remarkable skills to evoke emotions and carefully guides us to experience the scene as he intended. The tugboat, while efficient and a symbol of industrial advancement, lacks the grandeur and romanticism of the Temeraire. Turner's composition suggests a two-sided character of this new age, acknowledging the necessity of progress while mourning the loss of beauty and tradition. A strong contrast between the elegance of the old and the harshness of new, and contrasting energies of noise and silence. There's the thrashing of the tugboat's wheels in the water, the hum of the engine, and the smoke coming from the funnel. All that clanking and industrial commotion that represents the new era of technology. And behind it, we can almost hear the quiet ripple of the ship gliding silently. A suggestion that technological progress comes at the expense of the grace, serenity, and beauty of the old world. At that time, many saw this painting as such, giving way to the dominance of steam engines. However, Turner sometimes referred to this work as "my old darling." Maybe because to some it actually brought comfort, not because it clung to memories of old, but instead telling that the fading past was being carried forward by an equally strong, vibrant, and energized future. Interestingly, while Turner often depicted shipwrecks, he never showed steamships in ruin, a subtle nod to their resilience in a new age of progress. In his sketchbooks, he carefully studied his subjects. He added quick color notes to capture the effects he observed. For instance, right here, marking G for gray where smoke is fading. These brief notations were his way of recording moments in real time. In many ways, he was a chronicle of his era, fascinated by everything that was happening around him. This curiosity made him an extraordinary portrayer of Britain during the Industrial Revolution. And if his name conjures up images of landscapes, dramatic skies, and wild seas, there's also another side to it: machines. For example, right here, what might have been a tranquil seaport is now overtaken by the fire and furnaces of the modern world, an industrial hub where coal is being loaded onto ships that are destined for the rest of the nation. Even though this scene is set under the soft glow of moonlight, Turner makes it clear that industry is an unstoppable force and it is reshaping the world around us. The smoke from that coal is now puffing over the Temeraire, hovering across where the Royal Navy's flag would once have flown, and a tiny white flag atop the tug's mast signals that the Temeraire is now in the hands of a merchant ship. This work goes beyond its immediate historical context, capturing a universal theme: the passage of time and the certainty of change. I cannot help but ask if this is a sad painting or not, but what I find fascinating about Turner is that his meanings weren't always clear-cut. It is open to interpretation. It is hard to say whether he was celebrating the arrival of this new technology or mourning the loss of beautiful and graceful past, the bittersweet nature of progress. What is clear is that his painting style was also going through progress, gradually being overtaken by the hue of lighter colors. He deliberately made compositions ambiguous, and with most things being covered by light, it made them even more challenging for the viewer. What began as rather realistic slowly turned to abstract. Many critics of the time saw this as a step backward, unable to grasp what he was trying to achieve. However, his bold and dramatic style was later admired by the Impressionists, revealing just how far ahead of his time he truly was. Turner's increasing fascination with light became more dominated in his later works, making them even more ambiguous and difficult to read, such as this: Light and Color, along with its companion piece, Shade and Darkness. And as Turner grew older, it seemed that his inner world was also fully absorbed by this cheerful light. And then with his death, he left us alone with a question: what does it truly mean to leave the old behind and step into the future?